For Disney to come out and put a statement and say that the bill should have never passed, I think one was fundamentally dishonest, but two, I think that crossed the line.
You can have theoretically a successful economy, but if the underpinnings of the culture are just being torn apart, I don't think that that's a society that's going to be very successful over the long term.
Ron DeSantis has become a very popular figure within the GOP. So how should we as conservatives look at him? There seem to be two more radical camps. On one hand, some suggest that Ron DeSantis is the complete future of the GOP. They say that he is better than Trump and that Trump should step aside to let Ron DeSantis run in 2024. On the other hand, some people think that Ron is a total fraud, a neocon, an establishment psyop, and basically think he has no utility to the party whatsoever. Unsurprisingly, I would make the case that the truth is somewhere in the middle. Today, we're going to discuss why I don't think Ron DeSantis is the guy for 2024, but at the same time, I do believe that his role within the conservative movement is actually incredibly important, and he's not just another rhino or neocon. We're going to begin doing that, but before we start, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, okay? Do it. Did you subscribe? Did you like? I'm waiting. Okay, let's get started. Today, I'm going to tell you the objectively correct way to look at Ron DeSantis. Now, many look at him as Trump's replacement, but that's wrong. There is no replacing or competition going on here. Instead, I would say that Ron DeSantis is to statewide politics what Trump is to national politics, right? So they are similar figures, but with very different roles. Now, of course, while Donald Trump is not perfect, he is the start of something great. He is the beginning of a mainstream, nationwide America First movement. Hopefully, in the future, even better conservative leaders will rise to power because of what he started. And in that same sense, I would argue that Ron DeSantis is the start. He is the catalyst of a greater statewide approach to conservative politics. So sure, we wish that he would do more sometimes. Sure, some of these bills that he does down in Florida are kind of toothless, but the point is that he is the start of something. And what he has shown to conservatives across the country is that we do not have to be apathetic towards privatized tyranny and leftist institutions. Ron has shown that we can actually wield statewide power against corporate America, against the education system, big tech, and of course, in rebellion to the federal government. He has created this image of the powerful, effective, culture warrior conservative governor. Now, whether or not that's overblown is frankly irrelevant because nobody is saying that he's perfect. We are saying that he is the beginning of something. He is the start of something. So 20 years from now, when America First controls the entire conservative movement nationally, we will be able to look back and thank Donald Trump for what he started. I would argue that in that same sense, 20 years from now, when we have a bunch of based right-wing Huey Longs running the whole Bible Belt, we will be able to look back and thank Ron DeSantis for what he started. And I would argue that this is already happening. Don Huffines was unsuccessful in Texas, but his campaign was undeniably influenced by the legacy of Ron DeSantis. Even as bad as Greg Abbott is, he definitely has gotten better over time because Texans were getting jealous of what we have here in Florida. Kari Lake's governor campaign in Arizona is heavily influenced by DeSantisism, and she's actually going to win. And I'd say that she might even end up being a better governor than DeSantis. But again, do you see what he is starting? Conservatives across America are watching what DeSantis is doing, and they're starting to question why their own governors and state legislatures suck so much. I firmly believe that over time, you will start to see the rise of a lot of conservative governors who are way better than Ron DeSantis as a result. But again, it has to start somewhere. And this is what I want people who cast him aside as like a useless neocon to understand. Even if Ron DeSantis should not replace Trump as our national leader, which I don't think he should, he is still doing a very good thing for conservatism, and it's still very important. You could almost make the case that it's more important for us than federal politics. Now, I'm not saying to give up on federal politics, but let's face it, national electoral demographics do not favor Republicans going forward. And even when they do, it is very hard to get anything done at the federal level, even if Republicans control all three chambers of government, as we know. So realistically, barring an American Caesar, I don't think we'll ever truly get a real conservative federal government anytime soon. soon, but we can get truly conservative state governments. And the truth is that state politics impacts your life far more than federal politics. Just look at the difference between living in California versus Florida. I've done both, and I can attest to the fact that it's way different between states regardless of who the president is. So imagine if we just had a bunch of Ron DeSantis 3.0s running all of the red states in this country and constantly defying the federal government and doing whatever we wanted them to do. Wouldn't that be epic? Wouldn't that almost be better than controlling the federal government? Of course it would be. And of course, that all starts with the first guy to do something like that, and that's obviously Ron DeSantis. We'll talk more about 2024 in a little bit, but this is one of the primary reasons that I don't think he should run or even be Trump's vice president, because DeSantis has to finish the job here. He has to solidify the movement he is building here as a permanent political force and not just a trend. And in my opinion, that's going to take 2 full terms of influence here in Florida. Now, to address some counter arguments. To the people who just diss him as a neocon, listen, I understand that the establishment wants him over Trump in 2024 for nefarious reasons that we'll talk about in a little bit. I understand that people who prop up DeSantis 2024 a lot of the times are just giant neocons. But just because they have bad intentions and want Ron to be president doesn't mean that Ron DeSantis is inherently bad as a governor whatsoever. Now, I know that a common criticism of him is that a lot of the supposedly based legislation he does here in Florida is actually toothless, it's performative, and it doesn't really do that much. And again, I never said that he was perfect. I just said the fact that he was doing this stuff is a good start. But with that said, living here in Florida and kind of actually learning about the political scene, I would also like to point out that it's not entirely his fault all of the time. We have a state house and a state senate here in Florida that is absolutely full of rhinos. I mean, they're actually terrible. The Speaker of the House here, Chris Sprouls, is arguably the worst one of them all. It's important to point out that on a lot of these bills that are considered toothless and performative, like the big tech bill, the E-Verify bill, virtually all of these things, and of course, what we're seeing currently with Florida's redistricting maps, Ron DeSantis has almost always introduced a far more aggressive bill that we actually do like. And then it's almost always our terrible state legislature that blocks the bill or waters it down to the bills that you see them passing today. Now, that's not to excuse Ron DeSantis, of course, because he probably could try harder, right? He could try to play more hardball politics. But of course, we also know that politics is complicated. And if he totally pissed off the whole state legislature, he would just become a lame duck governor. And then we would get nothing done. And it's somewhat better that we're getting something done, right? Now, these are not excuses. Of course, I do think he could do more. They're just things to consider. Right? Take this into account. Bad Republicans stifle Ron DeSantis in the same way that they always stifle Trump. Not an excuse, just something to consider. And again, assuming that Ron DeSantis starts something here and we do see a large-scale statewide takeover by America First conservatives, Republican governors of the future may not have to deal with the terrible state legislatures that Ron DeSantis does at all because of what DeSantis started. And again, if that happens, DeSantis will get the credit in hindsight for it. So with that said, I think I've already inherently made an adequate case as to why Ron DeSantis' role is not as president in 2024, but still, let's close by talking about this a little bit, okay? So in short, I think that Trump in 2024 is really the only guy who can truly shake up the system and actually do something to drain the swamp. Trump is a threat to the system still. And really, even though Ron DeSantis is a good governor, I wouldn't say that he really poses the same type of revolutionary threat to the establishment that Trump does. If I were to be totally honest, I think that DeSantis would basically just be a generic Republican as president. But another thing I would like to point out is that one of my criticisms of DeSantis in this video was what? It was that I think he's way too nice to the neocons in his state house. Now, at the state level, this is just a minor annoyance. Yeah, I wish he would call out the Speaker of the House here in Florida more, but it is what it is. But what would this mean at the federal level? It would mean that President DeSantis would do absolutely nothing to push back on Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, or Kevin McCarthy. He would certainly do nothing really to drain the swamp or push back on our corrupt neoliberal political establishment because he doesn't even really do that here in Florida. At least with Trump, we have the possibility of dark MAGA. Like I've talked about on this channel before, there's absolutely a chance that Trump takes power and is totally vengeful on the political system that screwed him over the first time and just goes scorched earth on all of them. Sure, that's not guaranteed, but at least I think it's a possibility with Trump, and we know that it's a strong possibility because Trump likes revenge a lot.
You love getting even.
Oh, absolutely. You don't believe in the eye for the eye? You do.
No.
I know you well enough. I think you do.
Now, with DeSantis, I don't see that happening at all. If he won't even stand up to his rhino Speaker of the House, he's not going to stand up to the federal system. I mean, he's just not. That's the truth. And I would argue that this is the reason why a lot of these bad actor neocons have called for DeSantis as president over Trump. Because he may do some good things, sure, but they understand that he won't blow up or totally transform the political system in the same way that Trump will. That's just the reality. Now, in 2028, after Trump has really blown up the system and threatened the neocons' grip on power, maybe Ron DeSantis is the guy. Maybe. I'm not saying no, I'm saying maybe. But honestly, I would hope that a much better person has risen to prominence by then. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think we've really seen a lot from that person yet, but I do hope that we would have someone even better than all of the options we have right now by 2028. I mean, it's like 6 years away. Who knows? We might see Donald Trump 2.0 or some very good political figure rise to power in between then. I'd say leave that open, but of course, we will see, right? We'll talk about that when the time comes. I think it's way too early now to even consider that. For now, it's just important to understand that Ron DeSantis' current role in the Republican Party is not running for president. Ron DeSantis' role is to solidify the culture warrior approach to statewide politics. Just as Tucker Carlson, because I know a lot of you guys want Tucker Carlson to run, I would say right now, Tucker Carlson's role is currently to shift the Overton window in the culture, in the conservative movement, towards America first. Neither of these people, I would say, are presidential material right now. For now, for 2024, leave the presidency to Trump. Anyways, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Sorry I've been kind of inactive this week. Things have just been so busy. I got sick. Ironically, I got sick right after I made the Elon Musk video. I don't know what was going on there. I make this video calling out Elon Musk, and all of a sudden, I come down with something. Very interesting, very curious, and then I had to take a trip out of town to Ohio. A lot of stuff, but we are back, okay? We are back. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for everyone who supported the channel. Consider becoming a member. Subscribe if you're new. Alpha moves only. God bless and peace.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo as long